Welcome all. So in this lecture, in this tutorial, we shall learn the usage of Spinkit with the spin loader component. Now the Spinkit that we have downloaded from NuGet package and installed and configured in the last lecture, we'll take it one step further and integrate with our movie app. So let's flip over to Visual Studio. So I opened the movies.razor where we'll make all the changes to integrate it with code. So below the last line, custom title, I'll have to declare a couple of Boolean fields. So first one is faulted, and assign it the value false, and then another bool is loading, assign that to with false, and then a delay of say 2000, which is milliseconds or 2 seconds. I will call this delay and show the application, the completed application with and then without delay as well to compare for yourself. So another bool, force exception equals false. That is for the exception part that we have seen in the finished product. All right. So I have to make quite a few changes more. On initialized async, I will, rather than awaiting on get user detail, I will make this, I'll write a method load data, which is still not there, but we'll get there soon, and it will come up with a squiggly line, so don't worry about that. So I'll now write this load data. This is an async method. Async returns a task and then load data. And within this load data, I will call another method try loading data. So await loading data, try loading data, and there are two paths just like in jQuery. So one path is on success, the meaning will be clear soon, please just wait a bit, I will come back to explaining everything. So on success path, and on faulted call the faulted path. Okay, and this semicolon over there. So this method I have to write now. So I will just put it down, the rest of the stuff which will remain unchanged. Now await on try loading data. Okay, so I'll have to ultimately write the try loading data, but let me write these two. These are two methods actually, success path and faulted path, which will be clear, which returns nothing, and void null. And what is success path? So success path will have a parameter. Let me just make the shell first, and it will accept a list of movie as its parameter. I can call this data or whatever, movies also. And here what it happens is that, to the past in list of movie, which is data, I will equate this movies. So we have declared private list of movies, this movies I will initialize with this data. Okay, which is passed in as a parameter. Right, and then another empty method, a method that returns empty, that is faulted path. That is this method. This is a method actually. I'll soon make it clear. At the moment it is not very clear, but everything will be clear. Please hang on with me, please believe me. So faulted path, what this faulted path is accepting, this is an exception object, exception E. All right, E or EX or whatever. Okay, now use this EX or exception object to write a var to a field, say fake log. Now this will be a log message, but I won't share it with the users. So var fake log equals exception ex dot message. Okay, so I have written on success and on faulted the method that will be called. Okay, and now coming to the main method, that is the try loading data. All right, so try loading data I have to write now. This is the main method that is doing almost everything. Async, this will be a async task type, it returns a task. Try loading data. So I leave it up to you. You could write the try loading data first also. So I am starting in the reverse manner, so because I know what to write here. That's right. So this will be an action type, action on a list of movie. So you've got quite a few overloads. I will just use this one, action list of movie, list T. So this is one of the overloads, list of, and T will be generic T, that is movie. I will substitute it for movie. So action list of movie, and call this on success. Okay, that is this part. So this is passed to the try loading data as a parameter on success, and then an action type return on an exception object. This type, this is an exception object, that is on faulted. So let's pass the exception object over here and say this is this part, on faulted. Oops. Right, so you can see that these two are basically passed as argument to the try loading data method. Okay, right, and then what is this calling? It does not exist in the current context, so that will be fine. Just ignore it for the time being. It will be all right. Oh, the reason that it was showing that because I have got a typo over here. All right, okay, that's fine. So it will be all right now. Okay, let me build it at the moment once. Another small typo, name success path doesn't exist. Okay, so I have to change the name. So there's another typo. I'm sorry. This is the way you learn actually in the real life. Okay, now all the squiggly line has been taken care of, right? So here I will declare this is loading. I'll reinitialize the is loading boolean, introduce a time delay. So how do we do that? Task dot delay, right, and pass in the delay field, which was declared over here. Delay equals 2000, that is 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds, right? And then I will make a try catch and finally block for exception handling. So try. Now within this try block, now if the force exception is false, which is what it is right now, if the force exception checkbox is not checked, so if it is false, if force exception if that is true. If it is checked, then you throw a new not supported exception. Not supported exception, right? Else, come here, there is no else block, so outside this if loop, if construct, you can say, what I will do is I will call await. I will await on this task dot run, and I will actually get it to call the get user details method, right? So get user details method, which was at the bottom, which was getting all the users detail in the authorized state. Get user details. Okay, so get user details. And now, now here it is, you have to make another change. Cannot assign void to an implicitly typed variable. That means, here if you look into this get user detail, async task means this is not returning anything. This is just returning an asynchronous task, void task. So all you need to do here is to make this task as a list of movie type instead of void, list of movie. Now again here, remember, if the user was authenticated, you can see that, now service, in the service class, iMovieDB service interface and its implementation, this one was returning actually a list of movie. So if I return a task list of movie, that will be fine. All right. And it is still complaining that it is not all code path returns a value. So what we'll do is, if that is not true, if the user is not authenticated, then just return null. So that will satisfy the return type. So return null. Although this will never fall into this else branch, because only when the user is authenticated, it will come here. Okay, and we know that user needs to be authenticated to see this page. Okay, so not all code paths return a value, but I will build it and everything will be fine. Just wait for a few seconds. Now here below this line data, I will make this is faulted as false, because if it has gone past this if force exception is not true, that is false, then is faulted. If it got past this if loop, it is actually false. Is faulted is false, that is, it is not faulted. Okay, so then on success, that method, I will pass this data. Okay, so it is expecting a data, it is expecting a list of movie, right? List of movie, so that is data. You already got the data. So if the try block, if it falls to the exception branch, then it becomes catch, and I'll pass exception object again, exception, say EX, and then here now is faulted becomes true, because it is, of course it is faulted. That's why it has been trapped to the catch block. If it falls to the catch block, then is faulted is true. This is faulted. And on faulted, I will call now this on faulted method, right? On faulted. and pass this exception object on faulted and pass this exception object. Okay, and so pass this ex, and then finally try catch finally block. Those of you who are, I mean, quite experienced, or at least somewhat experience you've got in C#, you must have come across exception handling. So is loading false, so because it has already loaded, so is loading becomes false, right? That's all. Now when I say that's all, I have actually only finished the coding part of it, C# coding, but I have to complete the Razor part, you know, CS HTML part, okay, HTML part of the Razor page rather. So here within this authorized view, I've got this authorized tag. Now here I'll put this table. Now before I move further, let me tell you that once you have this Spinkit with the spin loader component, the spin loader component, we have got is loading, which we have already declared, and is loading and is faulted. These two boolean, depending upon the value of these two booleans, this will actually completely replace the if else block. So like how I will show you. Now let me first delete this part, because that's where the Spinkit and the spin loader component comes into action, that when it is loading, it should not show that loading as a message, as a text, but it should show the animated indicators. So the if statement is done with, and then else branch is also gone, and end else, that curly brace end is gone. Now this table class, I'll just indent it a little bit. All right, and below the everything else is fine, and rather than this for each block over here, before the for each block and within the T body, I'll have to call this Blazor pro.spinkit.spinloader. Okay, so below the T body, let's start writing. So Blazor pro .spinkit, and let's finish Spinkit dot spin loader. Right, so this is the correct component. Let's open and close it over there, and then we'll modify, we'll customize. So this end tag, this Blazor pro.spinkit.spin loader, this is ending at just above the T body, because it is started below the T body just when the T body started, so it will finish, it will be closing before the end of the T body tag. Right, and within this, if you see, it becomes now easy. Is faulted and is loading. These are two booleans that we have already declared in code. So is loading equals, this gets the value for is loading from the boolean is loading, and then is faulted will get its value from is faulted boolean field that we have already initialized. Okay, put in the code. Now before the content comes the loading template. So while the data is asynchronously loading, the loading template is loaded, and this loading template at that time is loading becomes true. Okay, when it is loading. So here there is a T row and a T column. So there is a column, row and column, where you get all that loading that is done with some CSS styling. So I have just copied it on my clipboard just to save time. I will paste it over there. It's quite a handful. So, and there is a bounce, and apart from bounce, there are lots of other things like chase and something like, you can see Blazor pro.spinkit.bounce. If you get rid of bounce, bring it on the left side, spinkit dot, if you write a, then you come up with all the choices that you have got for the loader. Spinkit.chase, spinkit.circle, spinkit.circlefit. We'll try a few. Let's go with bounce for the time being. And this is the loading template. It has ended. Now below the loading template is the content template. When the loading finishes, the content template comes into being. Okay, so content template. So within the content template and end content template will be this for each loop. Okay, so for each loop ends and the content template also ends over there. After that, below the content template, if there is a fault, if an exception is raised, exception is thrown, then the markup is, for the faulted content template comes into play. And here also I have actually copied it on my clipboard, so I will just paste it over here. That's my faulted content template and faulted content template. So everything is fine, except there was one thing. I had to return this movies, which I have also done. Before I finish off, there are a couple of still small changes need to be made in the markup, and they are, if you remember, I have shown you the retry button and the force exception checkbox. If you tick that, it will force an exception. So for that, there is a bit of a markup which I will copy it and paste it from my clipboard. So I have now pasted it from the clipboard. So it is bound with the force exception boolean, and this is bound with the load data method. So when you click on retry, it will bring the load data method, which was pretty much called initially when initialized async was called in the page lifecycle, start of the page lifecycle when the component were first rendered. And if this checkbox is clicked, it will make the force exception boolean as true. And if the force exception boolean is true, then what happens is here, if force exception is true, it will throw a new supported exception, new not supported exception, and this will fall into the catch block, and fault becomes true, and then this will call unfaulted method, okay, which is this method. Unfaulted, it will call the faulted path, right? So actually this on success and unfaulted, these are action. Action means these are delegates. These both are delegates, function pointers or method pointers. So now let's run the application, build and run the application and see, test it. It should build without any fault. So build succeeded. Now our application is fine, but so let's do a final testing of everything. So Control F5. Now the application is successfully built and run, and if I click on retry, it will give you the nice bouncing effect. And if I click on force exception and retry, then it will force the exception occurred message will come. And I can still I cannot do any add movie here. If you click on just any movie, try to create anything, okay, it won't allow you to submit, okay, add the record. That's fair enough. And if you come back from the home page, again come back here, it will finally give you this loading indicator. Now one more thing, because this resource, this documentation Blazor Pro.Spinkit, which I have put on the GitHub as a link, GitHub link as a resource. This gives you a lot of other loading indicators, and some of them you could just try. They are chase, circle, circle feed, flow. So I will show them in action in the next lecture, which will be a very short lecture, just to play around, just to for fun. Okay. So in this lecture, I had shown you how to use this Blazor Pro.Spinkit with spin loader component to load nice CSS animated indicators.